Hello everyone, it's Ren here. You know who it is, and today I will be talking to you about Open Monism. I think that this will be the sixth episode, which seems like a lot. I hadn't planned to make that many episodes about Open Monism, and we're actually kind of barely started, so it's kind of weird. But today I will be talking about Open Metaphysics. It will be the fourth installment of Open Metaphysics, and as a whole, the sixth installment of this introduction to Open Monism. So, what will I be talking about today in terms of Open Metaphysics? Well, we have made a little bit of progress with regards to this concept of the body of being open-groundedness, and having like an idea of what open-groundedness is in terms of how it is being apprehended, at least by myself, and how I'm trying to pretend to you that this matters. Hopefully you want to give it some time. I know that some of you do, and I appreciate that. In Open Knowledge, which will be the next sort of big chapter after Open Metaphysics, I will have sections on how I actually kind of detail to you why and how I think that it is very much self-consistent within Open Monism and Open Knowledge, the apprehension of knowledge, that insights and how to sort of apply your insights to critique and theory contributes to the description of the Open Monist framework, which is at the end of the day only parts and parcel of the investigation into being, which is the essential metaphysical aim and quest, and my quest as well as a would-be philosopher. So at the end of the last video, I said that, my cliffhanger, my typical relatively unexciting or exciting, depending on your perspective, cliffhanger, was that open groundedness could be sort of seen under at least two different aspects, potentially an infinite number of aspects. I called it the aspectuality theory, which I liked as a concept. So what would be the aspects under which open groundedness is apprehended, at least so far as I can see them? Well, I gave them a name. I said that they were reality and immanence. And so in this video, I will be giving a little more detail on what I mean by these two words and these two concepts. So the aspect of reality, which gives a view onto open groundedness, is what I propose to define as the realm of the logically conceivable. And the aspect of immanence is what I propose to understand as the realm of the graspable, and to be more specific, of the immediately graspable. And so these two realms, reality of immanence, are, you could call, like two different faces of open groundedness, the body of being. So what do I mean by these two broad categories, if you like, or aspects? Well, maybe I'll start with reality, because it will be slightly easier to describe for you and to make it easy to understand. Well, reality for me is quite broad, really. It is, as part of all that is, reality is all that is logically conceivable. And you can see that, it makes sense for reality to be an aspect of open groundedness, and through open groundedness an aspect of being, in the sense that surely whatever is, right, is logically conceivable from a certain perspective. Because if it is logically inconceivable, then what that means is that, we are creating a category that seems empty. Like, how could we imagine that what is logically inconceivable? I think there is one way in which that could be considered. It would be in the case of a perspective on logic that says, well, human logic is limited. It's limited by our powers. Therefore, it cannot claim to encompass the whole realm of what potentially is, and that maybe what is or potentially is can exist beyond logic. And so it's interesting to point out that by the embrace of the definition of reality that I embraced earlier, it can be seen that I do not accept this idea. I do commit to this idea that logic as the essential, you could call it the law of thoughts, or you could call it whatever you like. Logic, as traditionally understood, to me, can legitimately encompass the whole of reality, because logic is immanent by itself, and it does not transcend the world, but it transcends human being. If you like, it's not true that logic is to be confused by our cognitive powers. Logic exists beyond our cognitive powers. So in a sense, you could say it transcends our cognitive powers. What I deny is that it transcends the monist system. It still is very much part of the monistic framework, except that it cannot be reduced to the single intellect of a single human person. And I think that the logical tools, especially via such laws as non-contradiction, the laws of identity, a thing is identical to itself, what's true, and it's what's true, if you take something that's true, its opposite cannot also be true, law of non-contradiction, these ways in which logic is grounded, I embrace, and I do think that we can sort of get an idea of the possibility of being through logic. So, logically conceivable does not mean that we have, as a criterion of reality, the actual logical proof of the possibility of the existence of a being, for instance, or the possibility of the being of a being. It only means that we sense that it is conceivable. So, for example, there is nothing inconceivable about the existence of a unicorn. I like this idea of the unicorn because we often think about the unicorn as an animal that does not exist. It could exist. What against the possibility of the existence of a unicorn in another possible world, right? In order to prove that the unicorn does not exist in our world, we do not use logical means, because the logical framework allows for the possibility of the being of the unicorn. We use empirical observation. We say, no, for fuck's sake, sorry, I just swore. Apologies about that. Of course, there are no unicorns because we've never seen any, and they're a creation of our imagination. But the fact of the matter is, came up in our mind, we're talking about unicorns in such a way that it's kind of obvious that it is logically conceivable for the unicorn to be. And what Open Monism says is that insofar as a unicorn is logically conceivable, it actually has being. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. It is a ground already by itself, except that it's not a ground that is actualized, right? It's a ground that has only potentiality. And when I say that it is not actualized, I do not mean that it is not actualized anywhere. I mean it's not actualized in our world. So the world that we know, it is an actualization of a potential, and the fact that our world is not the only possible world suggests that there could be other possible worlds which would themselves be actualizations in which the unicorn exists, because it is not logically inconceivable that it could exist, it could be at all. So reality is the realm of the logically conceivable. Anything that is logically conceivable, which means anything that is not inherently contradictory, and some other things, but I'm not going to go into the technicalities of it because that would sort of penetrate into the realm of logic, and I do not want to get too logically technical because I think it might lose some people. Let's just say anything that does not violate the principle of logic and the principle of reality has being. does not mean it exists in actuality. And here you can really see the difference between actuality, existence and being. It is, but it's not actual in our world. Could be actual in another world, another possible world. So that's the realm of reality. And I've only got like 2 more minutes to give you a little appetizer about what immanence is. Well, basically, it's another aspect of open groundedness. Reality is the logically conceivable. So you can see it's broad. And open monism encompasses the whole of the logically conceivable, and you could consider it to be bounded by the logically inconceivable. Again, it's not another realm that has a certain surface area. It's a limit, right? It's a like big wall of the logically inconceivable. The logically inconceivable by definition cannot be talked about, but it can be interpreted as a bound. Immanence, if you like, immanence is, I call the realm of the immediately graspable. And what I mean by that is that immanence is anything that we can grasp in such a way that the very grasping of it conditions, if you like, the possibility of understanding anything. So it's actually before, if you like, it's before the sort of making logical sense of the being of something. It's really just being able to like grasp almost intuitively. It's the intuitively graspable rather than the immediately graspable. You have like logic on the one hand, which is reality, and the realm of intuition, which is the realm of immanence. Anything that we can intuit is immanent. And what I claim is that immanence is actually what in the traditional framework of a philosophical system we would call like something close to substance, except that instead of being of a certain substance, immanence, which is an aspect of open groundedness, in Open Monism, is the immediate graspability, okay, of facts. And you're like, oh, okay, what does that mean? The immediate graspability of facts. This sounds very obscure. What are facts versus propositions? What are propositions and facts versus events? What are these different things? So keep it in mind for the next video. Reality, the realm of the logically conceivable. Immanence, the realm of the intuitively graspable. And reality is the realm of logical entities. The immanence is a realm of facts. And I will explain to you what's probably right now is confusing, because you're thinking, well, if there are facts, then they're more than just immanent, and surely not the whole of reality is factual. Actually, I want to say the whole of reality is factual. It only depends on how you define a fact, all right? And in Open Monism, a fact, is contained in the whole of reality, is the stuff of monism to some extent, the Open Monism, but it is of a virtual nature. And when it takes place, it's no longer a fact, or it's not no longer, it never was a fact, it's an event. And we report on the link between the fact and the event. But I'm going into like slightly distant territory, so I'll stop for now. But I'll talk more about immanence and facts in the next video. See you guys.